Happy Friday. Welcome to my little live here. I'm Lindsay. This is Reach Out Recovery. What we do here is mental health and wellness, and I'm just doing a little bit of a part two on our caregiver burnout conversation because I think this is so important right now. I am a caregiver of a parent. Most of my friends are caregivers to parents. I see situations that range from people who have extremely good situations in being able to take care of their parents to incredibly stressful situations. So, I just want to talk a little bit today about solutions for caregiver burnout. So, if you missed part one, you can find it on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And you can find out why exactly so many Gen X and elder millennials are being crushed right now under the weight of caring for aging parents. So we talked about the emotional cost, the financial gut punch, the career damage, the relationship strain, and the loneliness of doing this mostly alone in a country that treats elder care as a private family problem. Today, we're not going to talk about those because anybody who's actually going through that knows all about it all too well. Today, we're going to talk about what to actually do if you are a caregiver and you are experiencing burnout over any one of those issues. Because what you need to know is that the burnout is real and the system is really broken. But we still have to live this. We don't really have a choice. So I want to help you do that without losing yourself in the process. So I just want to say right off the bat that there's no solution in this video that fixes the fact that caregiving is hard, expensive, and often heartbreaking. Those are just realities. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you to do more yoga. But I will give you some real practical advice and guidance for addressing each of the major areas where caregiving is taking the most from you. So you can hopefully start getting some of it back. So let's start with solutions for emotional burnout. The reality is everything else in your life is harder to address when you are emotionally underwater. So if you're a working person, if you have family, if you're also taking care of children, it's going to be that much harder if you're emotionally burnt out. So the first thing I want to say about emotional burnout is that grief is real, and it really needs to be named. What you are experiencing when you care for a parent who is declining it's called anticipatory grief. So you're mourning the person while they're still alive, mourning the relationship you had, mourning the future you imagined together. For me, I'm also mourning the fact that my father was like an incredibly smart, well-dressed, handsome guy. And, watching him decline has been very, very sad. So most caregivers carry that grief and they don't name it, and they're just completely alone with it because, our culture doesn't really have a good container for it. People don't send you flowers when your parents stop recognizing you. So anybody who has a parent with dementia or Alzheimer's, this is not something that gets recognized or acknowledged in very many situations. So people don't check on you, and suddenly the person who used to care for you, you're having to take care of. So it's really important to name it and acknowledge that you're going through grief, because if you don't acknowledge it, it's very, very hard to get through it. Okay, so what actually helps? Get into a caregiver support group. And I mean specifically a caregiver support group, not just therapy, not just talking to friends, people in the room who understands what it's like at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep because you're worried about what happens next. And that kind of being understood is really irreplaceable. It's why people go to recovery groups and support groups for any reason. So you really want to check out a caregiver support group. The Family Caregiver Alliance has a searchable database. AARP has caregiver support resources. Many hospitals run groups specifically for family caregivers of people with dementia, cancer, and other conditions. So, find your people. Do not live with this on your own. It's really, really painful. Um, if you do need therapy and you can find it, go for it and ask specifically for somebody who works with caregiver stress or grief, because it's not the same as regular therapy. And it matters that you're talking to somebody who has experience with it or knows what to say. The next thing that's really important is you have to give yourself permission to feel resentment over this. This is really hard. This is really frustrating. It's frustrating on every level. It's frustrating when they're not doing what you're asking them to do, the people who are taking care of a parent, and you're kind of on your own with medical things that you don't really understand. It's easy to have resentment for the parent because this is an incredibly tough thing to go through. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but every caregiver feels it. Resentment towards the parent, resentment towards your siblings who may or not be helping enough, and resentment about the life that you feel you're having to give up to take care of this parent. So resentment is not a character flaw. It's what happens when you give more than you have, for longer than is sustainable. Here's the other thing. You do not have to perform gratitude that you do not feel. You're allowed to love your parent and also be exhausted and angry about the situation. So, the most important thing you need to do is put something in your life that's just for you and not later on, right now. So one thing that belongs to you, one thing that has nothing to do with caregiving, and one thing that kind of protects you fiercely. So I don't know what that looks like for you, but definitely take the time to find, a standing dinner with a friend, an engagement, classes, whatever it is. This is your survival. It's not selfish. Okay, solutions for financial strain. This is by far the most upsetting thing I see that my family is experiencing, that my friends are experiencing, and that is the extraordinary cost of elder care in this country. This is keeping us up at night. It's keeping my friends up at night. And this is where the caregivers feel most alone because nobody actually prepares you for what this is going to cost and what kind of strain that's going to have. So here are a few things that you can do. And one of my friends is actually doing this right now. You can get a financial consultation specifically around elder care. So if you are really caught in a crazy financial situation, before you spend another dollar, talk to an elder law attorney or a geriatric care manager. In our family, there were social workers that helped us navigate as well. So if there are social workers around, we also had great success with talking to social workers. They were actually the ones who were able to help us find the companies that would be able to help within our insurance. Yes. An elder law attorney can help you understand Medicaid planning, asset protection, and legal structures that can protect both your parent and your financial future. Many people are spending down their own savings when there are some legal strategies available that can protect you. So this conversation needs to happen as soon as possible, not after you've spent everything that's left. And by the way, you don't have to feel bad or guilty that you're worried about any inheritance that you might have getting spent down. This is depressing. Talk to somebody who might be able to help. Understand what Medicare and Medicaid actually cover. Most people don't understand, and Medicare covers short-term skilled nursing care and some home health services, but does not cover long-term custodial care. Medicaid covers long-term care, but requires spending down assets, and the rules are complex and state-specific. Knowing this before you are in crisis gives you options, Knowing it after does not. And again, not to get too specific about my own situation, but we do have insurance paying for some of these things now, but we would not have been able to do that had we not actually found some people who could explain to us and navigate this process. Had we been on our own, we would have just been writing checks, check after check after check without understanding what we should have been doing. Okay. Look into caregiver compensation programs. Some states have programs that will pay you as a family member to provide care. This is real money that most caregivers never access because they don't know it exists. Some Medicaid waiver programs allow family members to be paid as home care aides. Veterans benefits through the VA also may include caregiver stipends if your parents served. The National Council on Aging has benefit check tools at benefitscheckup.org that will show you every program your parent may qualify for. Use it. So in case you missed it, it's benefitscheckup.org. And you can check any benefits and any benefits tools for aging parents. Okay, have the very difficult money conversation with your siblings and have it now. Don't have it when you're already depleted and resentful. Who's paying for what? Who is being compensated for their time if one sibling is doing significantly more than the others? What is the plan when the money runs out? These are very hard conversations. They're very uncomfortable, but it's very important to have them now. My brother and I have these conversations. We've actually been very supportive to each other throughout these conversations. It can bring you closer, I believe, to siblings and family members to have these conversations, but have them now. You don't want to be taking out loans in the last 5 minutes when you're really desperate and you don't have a lot of options. I see that happen all the time too. And then you're on the hook. So have those conversations with family and see who can help and will help. And if you're the one doing it all, how you can be compensated. Track every dollar you spend on caregiving. Some of it is tax deductible. Medical expenses you pay on behalf of a parent, you can claim as a dependent. Home modifications for accessibility, certain care costs. Again, this is why you want to talk to one of those elder care lawyers or a tax professional who knows elder deductions. Listen, none of these things are going to solve every problem, but if you are watching the money like I am, that's my responsibility in the family, guess what? It helps when you can, get tax benefits or caregiver dollars here and there. As the years pass, this stuff, it does add up and it does help. Okay, solutions for career damage. 2/3 of caregivers say it hurts their job performance, and most of them are trying to hide it. Let me tell you why that strategy usually makes things worse. The first thing you want to do is talk to HR, or at a minimum, know your rights before you decide not to use them. The Family and Medical Leave Act allows eligible employees to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid job-protected leave per year to care for a seriously ill parent. It doesn't solve the financial problem of unpaid leave, but it does give you legal protection against losing your job while you manage a care crisis. Many people do not know this applies to parent care, and it does. Next, have a direct conversation with your manager before your performance suffers enough to force the conversation. You don't have to share every detail. You can say, I'm managing a significantly family caregiving situation and I want to talk about how to structure my work so I can continue delivering at the level you expect from me. Most managers would rather you have this conversation than discover the problem through missed deadlines and unexplained absences. And increasingly, many employers are offering employee assistant programs that include elder care referral services. Check yours. All these social workers and extra health insurance people that we got to help with my dad came through my sister-in-law's job. It wasn't my brother and I. It was her services through her employment that helped us find the care for our father. So if you work for a big fancy company, they probably do have some kind of, I don't know, solutions for this. Okay, stop trying to do full-time caregiving and full-time work at the same time with zero support. It doesn't work. I have cut down my job to part-time, and I have cut down my caregiving to part-time because I need to do both. I can't do it all, and I need to be realistic about my own time and my own wellness. So, trying to do both, like the math isn't going to work and you're going to be completely exhausted. So this is where you need to bring in any help that you can access. So we do have a caregiver for my father now, and that is part of what we figured out through this process. Home health aides, making that call go away. Some compartmentalization is not possible when there is nothing holding the caregiving piece in place while you are absent. Okay, so stop trying to do everything and figure out the things that you can do and what you can't do. If you are considering leaving the workforce entirely, and many caregivers do make this choice, please talk to somebody who understands about financial things. The long-term financial cost of leaving paid employment, including the impact on your own Social Security benefit and retirement savings, is often significantly larger than people calculate in the moment. Make it a deliberate choice with full information rather than a crisis decision made in exhaustion. So what I'm talking about is like you just feel so guilty. You're like, all right, I'm just going to quit my job and take care of this person full time. But, that may not be the best decision for everybody, including you and your family. So think about that. Okay. Solutions for relationship damage. So one of the things I talked about in the last one is the incredible stress that this puts on our personal relationships when we are caregiving a parent. 40% of millennial caregivers say that it has damaged their personal relationships, and the damage is always quiet, cumulative, and invisible until it's significant and somebody sits you down and says, I can't take this anymore. So when it comes to your partner, spouse, romantic relationship, whatever they are, the number one thing I hear from couples navigating caregiving is that they stop talking about anything except the logistics. What needs to happen, who is doing what the next problem is. The relationship disappears under the management of the situation. This is where it's very important to schedule time, and actual scheduled time, non-negotiable, where caregiving is not discussed. It does not have to be elaborate, but it does have to be consistent, and name what's happening. Tell your partner what you need, even if you're not sure that they can give it to you. Don't wait until the resentment is so large that it has its own presence in the room. With your siblings, this one is particularly complicated because caregiving almost always is unevenly distributed. And the person carrying the most weight usually starts to feel a little bit invisible or even angry. So if you are the primary caregiver and your siblings are not able to do as much, have the direct conversation. Not when the crisis hits, not in a passive-aggressive text way, which we've all been guilty of at one time or another and never goes well, but in a calm and specific conversation where you name what you need and what the consequences are if the distribution does not change. Look, a lot of sibling fractures happen in these moments, so you want to be delicate. Believe me, my conversations with my brother are practiced and delicate, but they're really important, and I know he's doing his best, and I think he appreciates how much I do. He's got 3 kids under 11, so there are realities here, and I respect that, and that's why I've taken on more with parent care. But again, have a clear understanding with your siblings. Okay, so with your friends, caregivers often go quiet. They stop reaching out, they stop accepting invitations, they stop sharing what's happening because it feels really heavy and it feels really complicated. Or they assume people don't want to hear about it or won't understand. So the friendships that survive caregiving are almost always the ones where the caregivers let people in. You don't have to have long emotional conversations, but you do have to say to your friends and the people that care about you, this is what my life looks like right now, and I still want you in it. People who love you will show up for that and will check on you. So, to the people who you really care about and love, just let them know. I have one friend in particular who is not in contact very often because she is completely overwhelmed by caregiving a parent. And, I'm trying to be very, very patient with that because I understand what she's going through. So that's also really important. Remember what they're going through. Okay, solutions for the loneliness and isolation. One of the most consistent things I hear from caregivers is that they feel completely alone, even when they're surrounded by family, even in the middle of a house full of people. That particular loneliness is the loneliness of being unseen in your role, of carrying something nobody else around you is carrying, of being the person everyone else depends on with no one filling that function for you. So you are working day and night to take care of somebody and nobody sees it, nobody's thanking you, and you are just feeling like absolutely alone, isolated, and it's a special kind of emptiness, let's just say that. So the antidote to that specific loneliness is connection with people who are in it with you. Not the people who sympathize from the outside, but people who know from the inside what it is like to cancel your entire life for a parent's medical appointment. The people who know what it's like to grieve somebody who is still alive, who maybe gets angry at you when you're trying to help, to love somebody who is changing in ways that you didn't choose and you can't stop. So again, caregiver support communities exist online and in person, and they are underused. In my dad's facility, they do offer support groups. So if you do have a parent that is already in a facility, check in with the facility. They may have resources there. Again, AARP has a caregiver community. The Caregiver Action Network has a community. Alzheimer's and dementia caregiver support groups exist. If that is your situation, that's a very special kind of caregiving that needs attention. Again, local hospital programs, faith community support networks, these all exist. And these aren't emotional resources. These are practical ones filled with people who have already navigated these systems, are working these programs, have made the mistakes, and are willing to share what they learn. These are the people who have real life experience that you really, really need. Okay, solutions for your own physical health. We're almost done here. Caregivers are significantly more likely to have serious health problems of their own because they put themselves last on every list, every time for years. The irony is that a caregiver who gets sick cannot take care of anyone, including themselves. So keep your own medical appointments. This may sound obvious, but I know almost no caregivers who are actually taking care of all of their own medical things consistently. So this is your responsibility. Your physicals, your mammograms, your dental appointments, your mental health, your own prescriptions. It's really, really important to stay on top of all of this. And on top of that, I know money might be tight and all the rest of it, but things like massage, things like acupuncture, things like a little bit of meditation, sound baths. This is a moment where I might say do yoga, but not because it's going to fix your problems, but because it's an hour where you can show your body some love and relax. But that's really, really important. And on top of everything else, sleep. Protect your sleep. This is how we protect ourselves from burnout. Chronic sleep deprivation at the level most caregivers experience is genuinely dangerous to your health, to your judgment, your emotional regulation. So if nighttime caregiving is disrupting your sleep consistently, this is a medical situation that needs a solution. a night aide on certain nights, a sibling taking overnight shifts on rotation. Take sleep deprivation really, really seriously. So, in closing, here's what I want to leave you with today. You didn't sign up for this exactly as it arrived, and most of us didn't get a manual for any of this. We didn't get a support system or financial preparation, or a culture that genuinely honors like what we're doing right now. But we're doing it anyway, and that's because you love your parent or you feel responsible for your parent, and maybe because you're the only one. So that is real. It's very, very hard to sustain. So the most important things you can do is to stop trying to do this all on your own. Get some help, name how you're feeling, name your needs, have these hard conversations with people, and find some people to be in this with you. Um, Find people who will take something off your plate. You really are allowed support while you are giving it. They are not contradictions, they're just what being human looks like when you are in a situation that is genuinely hard. So, thank you so much for the people that tuned in and watched, and drop anything you want in the comments. And hit the like button, subscribe, and we will be back soon for more.